Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zebra Talk, the podcast where we shine a little light onto the lives and the untold stories of the people who slide on their knees and count the threes. That's right, I'm talking about the referees, and today we're joined by one of my oldest long-distance, long-term referee friends from all the way across the internet. You've seen him on ICW No Holds Barred. You've seen him most recently on Game Changer Wrestling. You've seen him at IWA Mid South for many years. You've seen him at Paradigm. Please welcome Sean Man-Bun O'Brien. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, Odie? How you doing, bro? That was hell of an introduction.
Thanks, bro. I try to, make my guests sound as good as possible, make sure that people are at least a little interested to hear what you guys are going to be talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you said one of the oldest, man. I think I remember when you started the group, the Zebra Talk group, and to see what it's flourished into is incredible, bro. So kudos to you, like all day, for everything that you've created. So.
Thank you. And I mean that too. Like there's like a core group of probably like 10, 20 people that like were in the group like right away that I didn't know previously. And it was like you and Max Recon, AJ Kissinger, Sean Pittman from over in like North Carolina, like Ivan down in, like South America. Like it's been really cool to like, not just watch, obviously I'm experiencing it myself, but like have those relationships like mature and grow into like actual like friendships and business relationships and like see what you do with your career and all kinds of stuff and the influences that you have on the group. It's been great. So thanks for being a part of it and for being a positive part of it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And one of my favorite, mantras that you hear, in the business and stuff is leave the business better than you found it. And I think Zebra Talk definitely does that. You know what I mean? So
that's definitely something that has been a big hill for me to die on throughout my whole life. But like most especially, like you said, in wrestling recently, we like sleep on couches and stuff like that, obviously on the road and whatnot. And that's something that's always been in the back of my mind, like when you go to like leave somebody's house after you've been crashing there, like make sure you tidy that place up. Same thing with wrestling, You just crashed on pro wrestling's couch for a couple of years. You better make sure that place is nice and tidied up when you leave.
Sure, man, for sure.
So let's tell people a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get involved in professional wrestling? Where do your origins in professional wrestling lie? Like, did you watch your whole life? Have you been a fan forever? Did you grow up going to shows? Go ahead and tell your story a bit.
Sure. Well, so been a fan pretty much my whole life. There's a gap where everybody doesn't watch for a little bit, but sure. I was very fortunate to grow up in the Louisville, Kentucky area. And in this area, OVW has been here for years. And then back when they had the developmental contract and stuff. So like, I grew up going to see John Morrison and, John Cena and like all these guys as they were developing and stuff. And one of the first like live pro wrestling memories I have was going to see Matt Morgan. But what was kind of crazy was I really didn't have much of an exposure to independent wrestling because of I was always just a WWE or WWF, WWE, WCW guy, and then with OVW in town, it was even more so. Like I had no clue about anything outside of that.
It was almost like you had an in to how your fandom was like being created. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. Like as far as, going to like pro wrestling, live pro wrestling shows and stuff, it was like I was seeing these guys on the ground level as far as like seeing them develop and stuff. And it was crazy. Sure. And of course I had dreams of being a wrestler whenever I was a younger kid and stuff, but like I was already so nose deep in the music that it really not even in my sights, just because I had two dreams when I was a kid, which is kind of crazy, is either work in the music industry or being a professional wrestler, you know what I mean? And so, or being in the pro wrestling. But, and so I went really hard with the music stuff and I was trying to make it work. Was singing in professional choirs, singing in, R&B groups, writing original music and different stuff. The first, like, I guess, exposure where I was like, I have to be a part of this business was in high school. At the time I worked at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom, which is like a theme park, deal or whatever. And they used to do OVW at Six Flags. And I worked in the entertainment department, which like they would set up the catering and all that stuff. And then we could eat with all that. And at the time, like CM Punk was at OVW and Deuce and Domino were there. Santino Marella was doing a like a Russian MMA gimmick that was fire. It was so good.
Dope.
So like, I was working in the OVW locker room, not really a part of OVW, but in the OVW locker room on I want to say it was like every other week they would do OVW shows for like a, summer period of time. It was probably about 2-3 months. And so that was just an experience being back there, chopping it up with these guys. Like, oh my God, these are real people,
This is something that like is achievable, that like you can actually like find a way into this. What?
But as I was saying, I was already pretty deep in the music, even at this point. This is my senior year of high school.
Sure.
Well, then fast forward a few years, ended up, I got an opportunity through my cousin-in-law. He was actually a wrestler at the time. He didn't really travel a whole lot or really get out much. And he worked for one company in the area, kind of an entry-level type company, and went to a show with him. And I was like, dude, what the heck is this? You know what I mean? Like, it was, there was some really cool people that I ended up later in life becoming really good friends with, like Amazing Maria, Reverend Ronnie Roberts, who's now on OVW, different people like that. And and I more or less was, showing up to those shows and checking it out. And I was just like, if I could find a way to get into this, like, I'm going to do whatever I have to type stuff. So, that's pretty much how I ended up getting into the business. I was more or less just throwing a referee shirt, at that company.
Here you go, kid. Get it done.
And so, but that was kind of how my journey into the business, I guess, began. But yeah, I've always been a fan on and off. It just, I always had, I'm very one track minded when it comes to my dreams. And, I went very hard on the music, and
then literally happened.
Music wrestling, and obviously I made my choice. But
right, I love the like that's one of my favorite parts about doing these interviews is like obviously I've known you for years now, and like we've met each other in person a few times, and like communicated online a lot, but like we've never really like had the opportunity, just because there's never been a reason to talk about music before. Like I was in choir for like my whole life. I was in church choir. I was, a musical theater major. Like, so to hear you talking about, like being so passionate about music and it being your original dream and everything, theater was my original dream, like it's cool to hear, like that's the whole point of the podcast, is the different, like, intricacies and facets of what make a person who they are. And not just the dude in shirt.
Well, and you were saying as far as like the theater stuff, like I was a theater geek and choir geek in high school. You know what I'm saying? And so that was a driving force of whenever I finally realized that like pro wrestling is the exact perfect example of theatrics and of sports, and you just mix them together. I played football, then I also was doing theater. Like literally, I would leave football practice early so that I could get to whatever we were working on practice at 5:00. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So yeah, it was a grind. It was funny because there was at one point like somebody had made fun of my diet at that time because I used to eat like 4 or 5 double cheeseburgers like it was nothing. You know what I'm saying?
But I was putting them away.
Like, it just was what it was. But no, yeah, I was a huge theater geek too. And musical theater and all that stuff. So every time I hear you talk about it on the podcast, I'm like, man, I can't wait to talk about that with Odie. So
let's transition into you getting into the ring a little bit. Obviously you found this like kind of entry level show that you're a part of. Like, what's the first experience like for you? Is it literally just you're at a show and there's no ref and they tell you to go do it? Or like, did you kind of volunteer? Or like, tell us a little bit about that story. And if you remember your first match, let's hear about it.
Okay. I don't remember my first match off the top of my head. But I know that the first time that I actually put on a referee shirt, they had a battle royal going on at that show. I want to say that there might have been 2 refs. There might have only been 1 referee at that particular show. And that's why they had me throw on a ref shirt just for the visual effect. But they had, thrown me a ref shirt for this battle royal, and I just kept bugging them for probably about a month time. And I was just like, hey, can I get a match? Hey, can I get a match? Because, my cousin's husband, his name is Corey. Shout out to Corey. He knew that understanding of the business and stuff. But like, he knew I didn't really have any training or, you know, any sort of stuff like that. So he was kind of hesitant, and I just kept on, you know, bugging him. Please. Like, finally, he ended up giving me that opportunity. Like I said, I can't remember the first official like singles match, but sure. I ended up being at UWA is what that company was called. It was like Underground Wrestling Alliance or something. I think, you know, one of those type. and and so
it's funny that you mentioned that. My first company that I was involved with, that I've been talking about a bunch, you know, backyard company. Before I got trained, I did get trained, but was also called the Underground Wrestling Alliance.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. So ended up doing stuff with them for they were around for like another 2 years after that, and they actually was doing some pretty cool things. They were on the local access TV channel, running opposite of OVW.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so it was pretty cool. They were starting to do some stuff and get some pretty cool opportunities, but there was too many chefs in the kitchen type deal, and that's why they ended up closing down. So then when they closed down, it was just kind of like, okay, I guess this wrestling dream isn't going to work out for me. And I went back to the music, because whenever I was still doing the music and I was still dabbling in both, and some opportunities were starting to come along. I was also starting to hype man for a buddy of mine who I'll shout him out all day, Eliezer Zev, really dope rapper here from Louisville. And he does like, you know, R&B type music too. So whenever I would hype man for him, I would be jumping around and, you know, doing that during the rap stuff, and, you know, ad libs over top of the, you know, more soulful type rap songs that he had. And we had actually got some really cool opportunities, and we had opened for like people that I grew up, you know, like Project Pat and like, you know, Lil White and Silk the Shocker and like all kinds of like, you know, 90s rappers that Louisville likes to bring through here. So
nice. Before we like pass off of it, I'm a stickler when it comes to podcasts of like, when I hear a name that I want to look up, I don't always know how to spell it. So why don't you spell it out for anybody that wants to look up your friend?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's Eliezer Zev. It's Eliezer Zev. So Zev.
There you go.
So yeah, check him out for sure. He's got songs on Spotify.
Give him a follow, all that stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Check him out. But yeah, so, and we were opening for, you know, a handful of people doing some cool things. And then it was kind of crazy chance meeting with Max Recon and AJ Kissinger, as we had mentioned. And me and him had like a 2-hour-long conversation. And that was where I was like, okay, cool. I think this is what I want to do. And it made me take, you know, the business a lot more seriously. We kind of had one of those conversations where at that time, it was around 2015, 2016-ish. He was just kind of like, you know, in this area, there's not a whole lot of refs who are consistent with it and who are always there. And either that, you know, they are, you know, wrestlers trying to, you know, or they're wrestlers who are training to be wrestlers, but they're just refereeing to get that ring time. You know, He kind of get conversations, and then we just talked about, you know, hopes and dreams and all kind of different stuff for the better part of 2 hours. And just that's why I always claim Max is like my mentor, like my big brother, all that, just because he was the one who kind of like steered my head into start taking this more serious.
And you can definitely see that anytime you guys are around each other. Like, I don't think I've ever even been around the two of you at the same time, but like your guys' relationship with each other really just like shines through, you know, in social media and in your like presence with each other. Like, it's definitely a very close bond that like I've picked up on over time, and rightfully so. You know, both wonderful people. Max, I can't wait to have on here. Obviously, you know, probably any day now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Max is a great dude. And like, you can tell who the really good people are by the people, you know, by the boys who put them over. And like a lot of the boys tell you that Max is one of the most solid dudes. Anytime you ever need anything, like Max is there type stuff. And it goes for us too, you know what I'm saying, as far as our relationship. And, you know, he didn't have to have that conversation with me. He actually was trying to help me get onto another show. And actually kind of what led to me getting on with IWA Mid South was I had showed up to a rival promotion that was running in the area at the time that Max Recon was a part of. And showed up, and I was just like, and I also knew quite a few of the guys in the locker room from the old company that I had worked for.
Right.
And, but the promoters were just kind of like, like, I guess they had their crew and they were fine. So they just kind of, treated me like I wasn't anybody, which I really wasn't at the time. And I still really ain't.
And not to mention the fact that, like, you and I are still in that kind of like generation of, like, that's what Zebra Talk is kind of all about, is like when we first walked into locker rooms, it didn't matter who we were, like what we brought to the table. People saw a new referee and immediately were just like, oh, this guy's terrible. It's a referee I haven't heard of. He's going to be terrible. Which, like I've said, is something that we're like trying to like affect change with this kind of thing going on. So please continue.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. And so, but yeah, and then, so I went to that company, and that was actually the place where I had that conversation with Max after the show and all that stuff. And so it was probably about a week after I had, because the thing that had brought me back was like, it was a birthday or a benefit show or something. And Corey had gotten booked on it, and I hadn't done anything wrestling in probably about 8 months, almost a year. It had been a while since I'd been in a wrestling ring. And Corey was just like, actually, I don't even think Corey hit me up. I think I hit him up, and I was like, yo, you're booked at the arena? Because the world famous Jeffersonville Arena that everyone talks about is 2 minutes road from my house. So that's why, like, there was a certain point where there was like 800 companies running out of the arena, and I worked for every single one of them because
there you go.
Because it's right up the road. So
can't get anybody closer.
Yeah. And so, and not only that, but it helps me get my reps in and stuff. So
absolutely.
Plus, Too Tough Tony will do some birthday parties, and I'll get to take, stunners and all that. So
nice. But, we've talked about it a lot in the podcast. Like, that's a really important thing that a lot of people don't really pay a lot of attention to, is like how important geographic location is to your career.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've had a billion opportunities with countless innumerable other companies just because you happen to live so close to a venue. Like I just happened to have the opportunity to be on television like 2 years in. It was Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. It wasn't like it was a contract or anything, but like just because I happened to live in California and I was willing to make my way down there. It's important that you if you decide to like really tackle this and like try to make it your career, that you do so in a place where it can actually like help. But go ahead.
But like, as you were saying, it's beneficial to live in an area like where I live because there's so many cars that pass through here.
Yes.
Either that or so many carloads leaving out of here. Back when I was at IWA Mid South, it was like every Thursday I would be, to kind of fast forward a little bit, there would be a carload that I could always hop into, and I could always be like, hey, where are you headed? You know what I mean? Whether it be a, John Wayne Murdoch or a Shane Mercer or,
where are you guys ending up? I'll take a bus home. Let me jump in and throw some gas.
Where are you at this weekend? Can I ride with? It's that simple. And but yeah, me living where I have lived, and then also living so close to the arena, because, like I said, at one time there was 800 different companies running out of there, but those companies have done some things or are still doing some things and have created a brand like a Paradigm Pro or IWA Mid South. Girl Fight Wrestling runs out of the arena. So it's like, all these different companies that and then not only that, but to work for a school like Grindhouse and, work for a period. But like that, we just fast forwarded a lot.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We're jumping. But
where are we? I'm lost. Help me get there.
So, but yeah, but to go back, that chance meeting with Max Recon and all that, and then ended up at IWA Mid South, and pretty much the rest is history, man. Like, everything snowballed really, really fast. You know what I mean?
The rest is history. Go home. All right, we're done. Podcast over.
Some cool things happened, and I'm still doing some cool things. But
so let's talk about it. You have this like life-changing conversation with AJ. Like, is this kind of when you make the transition from like, I'm doing this and I'm like happy with it and I'm enjoying it, to like, okay, I am a pro wrestling referee now, and this is what I'm going to chase, and this is the career path that I'm like walking down now? Is this the moment, or is that still a little ways off?
It's not the exact moment, but that is definitely the conversation that I can look back to and be like, that was what steered the ship. You know what I mean? That moment came for me, I would say, probably whenever I started at IWA Mid South. just because I didn't realize the magnitude of working for a company like IWA Mid South until being there for, I'd say, probably, I would say my first King of the Death match was really probably whenever I realized the history and the, prestige and all that different stuff of being at an IWA.
The weight. Yeah, absolutely.
My first Ted Petty Invitational was where it really, really hit me. Like, okay, I'm doing something. And then whenever I was starting to get bigger opportunities, that was when it was like, oh, we're traveling now. Okay, cool. Like, this is what we're doing. Because like I said, I was doing the music before and it was very much the same grind. You know what I'm saying? The only difference, which obviously made my job a lot easier, is that I wasn't putting myself over so much. It was more, I'm just like, hey, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? If me, I'm here, which is very much so how it was on the music game. It was like, hey, I'm here, but I also am a benefit to your show. You know what I'm saying? Which I guess it's like that on the, the wrestling side too. Sure. But I don't have to be so much.
You're not selling tickets. You're not trying to get yourself over and sell your merch and stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't have, there's way less to worry about.
Right.
So, but at a certain point I had to make a choice. And that was where I say I started taking the wrestling side a lot more serious, because there was an open mic that I would do every Thursday. And it's called the Vibe Open Mic. Definitely got to shout those guys out, because they're still doing their thing every Thursday. And it's grown to become one of the bigger open mics in the city, which is pretty cool to see. But the Vibe used to run every Thursday, and that was kind of like my, I guess, my ladder to kind of build my brand and get myself out there, all that good stuff. And so ended up, I started at IWA and they were running every Thursday as well. So it was like I had to make a choice whether I wanted to keep on doing the open mic stuff or whether I, wanted to take this wrestling grind more serious. And, obviously, like I was saying earlier, I made my choice and it was like, cool, that's fine. Like here recently, my Thursdays have opened back up. And so I've been trickling back into the Vibe. Kind of my move before I had stopped doing the music stuff. As far as the Vibe goes, I had a manager and all kind of cool stuff, and he was advising me that I shouldn't do open mics so much anymore and all kind of BS. And so I started hosting shows. And now that I have my Thursdays back, I've actually been hosting shows again in the last 2 or 3 weeks. In the last 2 months, I've hosted probably 3 or 4 of the Vibes, just because either Sasha didn't have anybody else, and so she hit me up last minute, or whatever. But like hosting those things, man, has been so rewarding, just because like I'm showing up and seeing local rappers, which Louisville's always had a really dope like music scene in general, not just hip hop, but all kinds of different music. And see all these rappers that I have no clue who these guys are. It's just like cool. All right,
I don't know who you are, but you got fire. Let's hear it.
Yeah, man. Because I'm very big on like independent, just supporting independent stuff in general, just because a lot of times I feel like the mainstream or the independent, what's going on in the independence is better than the mainstream. So, that was really kind of when I started taking it more serious, whenever I had to make that choice.
So let's paint the picture a little bit. Obviously, we're very familiar with IWA Mid South, but like, sometimes you'll have listeners that like maybe are just starting their adventure. Paint the picture a little bit of like what IWA Mid South is for anybody that's listening to this, that like it's, their first year in wrestling or anything like that. We've got all kinds of listeners. Tell us about like who they are, what they're about. Paint the picture.
Yep. So IWA Mid South is a Midwest company ran by Ian Rotten, and it is it's a very prestigious company as far as like a lot of the guys that are featured on WWE right now. It was
the doors.
Yeah, it was their like first opportunity, first place that they had hit the road. Like you'll hear a lot of guys in interviews talk about that, and guys like Seth Rollins and Cesaro. Chris Hero, Cassius Ohno, all those guys are big Ian guys and still, love Ian to this day. Like Seth Rollins will get Ian front row tickets anytime WWE's through town, it's just a very, very prestigious company, very good place to go to learn for guys and also get reps in. Cause that was definitely what I, got out of IWA Mid South was, there was a time period for a good 2 or 3 months where I was, the only referee. on and off actually in the 4 years that I was there. And so in doing that, it's like, people will kind of be like, oh, you're getting slaved. And it's like, no, I'm getting my reps in,
Yeah, right. No, I'm getting spoiled. I get so many matches. Are you kidding?
Dude, in 2017-18, when I came into IWA Mid South, it was guys like, Larry D, Jake Christ were all cutting their teeth. But then you had like you can't even really call them locker room leaders. Like the guys who were there, the top guys at IWA when I came in were like Eddie Kingston and Sugar Dunkerton and, Jake at that time, Jake Christ. And so I'm working with the best in the world. And it's like, nah, I'm getting my reps in, dude.
It's always cracked me up when people talk about like doing more matches in a night, like it's a burden or something. Like, yes, it's exhausting, it's physical exertion, we're working really hard, whatever, but like, give me all the matches, bro. Like, dude, if somebody wants to do the main and let me do the other 7, cool, sounds good. More matches. Like, I just love being in the ring. Go ahead.
Well, and there's so much cool stuff going on right now, dude, that like me and some of my ref buddies, when we're going to make assignments, it's just like, dude, I want all of these.
Yeah, like, right? You go look at the card and you're just like, how do I pick?
But like doing the ICW no holds barred, and when I'm the ref, and it's like, dude, doesn't that get exhausting? And it's like, nah, look at the matches I'm refereeing, that's
think about how excited you are watching all of these. Imagine you're actually in there while it's going on.
Dude, yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, I like I said, I was getting my reps in at IWA Mid South, and so, but yeah, IWA is just one of those destination places. It's definitely a place to learn and to get better, and to get reps. Like there's guys who recently after the quarantine just wanted to wrestle, and so they were coming back to IWA just to get that, I guess, break that little bit of rust off and stuff.
Yeah, like get some ring time in. Yeah.
I remember Nate Webb right before he made, I guess he's been on kind of a 3 or 4 year run at this point that was supposed to and he's just kind of going with the flow. But sure. Nate, before he really started going hard, like he came to IWA Mid South. I remember here recently, Big Beef Gnarls Garvin, he was hanging out at IWA, and that's like one of my day ones. He started with me at UWA, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So like he was coming to IWA on a weekly basis for a good few months. And then before he started, booking started picking up for him, it's just one of those places to get good, I guess.
Yeah. You get to be around other like-minded people that have the same goals and the same kind of drive and dedication. And you get to start cutting your teeth and really like learn how to swim out there with the sharks.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk a little bit about where you transitioned from there. So like what kind of loops are you going on? What kind of, like where do we go from there? What's the next step?
So from there, there was another person I was very fortunate to meet at IWA Mid South, and that's Mouse, Bellamy, the photographer. He at that time was going all over the place to, not just take pictures, but also because there was a lot of really cool stuff going on at that time. And one of those places was Black Label Pro. So I hopped in a car with Robert to hit Black Label, got on with them. Another one was VOW, Vicious Outcast Wrestling. And at the time, IWA Mid South, the culture was death matches. We would do a death match show and then a regular show, like 2 shows a week for, every week in 2017-18ish. And so VOW was a deathmatch company that was doing some pretty big things at that time. And so I was, let me check out this deathmatch lane over here. Like literally just any car that I could hop in, I would go to, you know what I mean?
I've been trying to find a natural way to transition to it. So let's talk about it a little bit while we're there. Deathmatch wrestling. Like, let's just go ahead and dive in a little bit. Your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences. Like, I'd say usually over the course of the podcast, I'll ask people, what kind of matches do you really like to be in, and what kind of matches do you really not like to be in? And the number one response, almost the exclusive response, is I'm not interested in deathmatch wrestling. So I would really love to hear from your perspective, because I'm a big deathmatch fan and I've done death matches, but I'm not really full dive You know what I'm saying? So like, I'd like to hear from your perspective. Like, go ahead.
So, well, I was pretty much just kind of thrown into the fire by starting in Mid South. I'm not saying it like I was forced into it or anything like that, but at that time period, John Wayne Murdoch and Aiden Blackheart were bleeding every week. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I think my first show at IWA Mid South, I helped make a barbed wire bat, and so it's just kind of, this is just the culture, and so I got used to it pretty quick as far as like, and it's crazy because I actually have a weak stomach myself.
Nice.
Like I wasn't sure how I was going to handle the blood and blood touching me and all that. But, once you're in the heat of the moment, adrenaline and all that, it really doesn't matter. But it was just kind of like, trial by fire. And I was just, thrown in there and ended up, it wasn't until I'd say my first King of the Death match is whenever I really was like, okay, like, because they're working with guys like Murdoch and Aiden and stuff, like, and there was other guys coming through, but like they were telling a great story week by week because they were kind of doing episodic television, I guess, and were able to tell a story throughout that. But it wasn't until like my first King of the Death match where I really like appreciated like the art of deathmatch wrestling, and like it made me a like deathmatch fan. And not only that, but it's kind of like there were some guys who wanted to be known as deathmatch referees and stuff and all that good stuff. But like, I don't know. It was kind of like how with it IWA, there was a necessity, and with deathmatch referees, there was a necessity for it, and it was just kind of like, I'm here and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of you as like a deathmatch ref. I've always just kind of thought of you as like an indie ref who isn't opposed to doing death matches and who like is proficient at death matches and does a lot of high profile ones. It's definitely not like a label that I have over your head or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, it definitely took me like seeking those shows out to get better. You know what I mean? Just like with, being a regular referee or regular match referee, you have to get your reps in. Sure. And, those reps in the deathmatch realm is definitely how I feel like I've, became not just more comfortable, but then more comfortable with myself in there, but then also more comfortable to make sure that everybody's going to be safe going home. Because that's number one priority, not just in deathmatch wrestling, but in wrestling in general, is we want to make sure everybody goes home safe. And
of course.
So yeah, it was more just kind of a necessity for it. And, there's some really, at this point, there's some really cool stuff going on in the deathmatch world.
Pretty great.
I mean, deathmatch on national TV, and that's crazy, dude.
Before we move off of it, let's, we don't have a lot of opportunities to talk to people who are so proficient in deathmatch wrestling. What are some common misconceptions? And what are some things that you think are really important for specifically other referees to know going into them, but also just like people in general? What are some really important things to know? Go ahead.
Some common misconceptions is that they are guys who can't really wrestle. That's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. Is
that one bums me out the most? Yeah.
So they tried to do death matches. Nah, a lot of these guys have a passion for this. You know what I'm saying? Like deathmatch wrestling is what they want to do.
Yeah.
A lot of these younger guys, like there's dudes out here cutting their teeth who, like, they literally grew up watching IWA Mid South and watching CZW and watching, all this stuff that is out here now because they are 23, 24, 25. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, that's just what they
even on the other side of it too, like you talk to Nick Gage about wrestling for like more than 5 minutes and you understand that like he is a lifelong die-hard, like dedicated, like professional wrestler, like he grew up watching old Southern style main event punch kick Memphis wrestling and loves Southern wrestling. Like he just also happens to be the best deathmatch wrestler in the world.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then you also got dudes like, Alex Colon, who like Alex, he's been out here wrestling for, a good 20 years or so and was doing like banger matches before that. It was just the thing about deathmatch wrestling, I'd say like the thing that I like it the most is the passion of the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Fans of deathmatch wrestling, like I don't know what it is, but like you can go to a deathmatch wrestling show and the fans will be into every single thing and will never die. Like they're just there for everything. Whereas like you can go to some, I could think of an IWA Mid South, for instance, show where, the main event will be like a Jake Chris versus Mance Warner.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the time it gets to that match, the crowd's on their hands. And it's not because of those guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just because the crowd is just blah. They've seen so, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, not just on that show, but like in this area, fans are really kind of spoiled. So maybe it's kind of, I guess.
I feel it. But I get what you're saying, though. The point that you were trying to make, though, is that like deathmatch fans are like a entity unto themselves when it comes to the shows. They're ravenous, they are bloodthirsty and diehard and dedicated. And I think I don't necessarily think that they're like turning it on or anything like that, but I think that they go into shows knowing that there are so many common misconceptions and there is such a stigma around the thing that they love so much that they really want to like do their part in making sure that it's a good environment and that the show looks great, on film later and everything. And obviously they, get crazy wrapped up and just involved in everything that's going on. It's pretty great.
Well, on the flip side of it, and then on the flip side of that, you've also got, guys out here who have put in their work and put in their time to this business, like, a Matt Cardona or Chris Jericho, who's just like, that looks kind of interesting. I think I want to try it.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like it's crazy times right now, man.
Absolutely. What are some things that you think are important for specifically refs, but just people in general to know about deathmatch wrestling? Like, are there any tips that you have for referees that maybe you're going in for the first time?
Yeah, man, just you got to keep your head on a swivel. That's the biggest tip I would say, definitely for any referee who doesn't have much experience who's going into one. You got to definitely keep your head on a swivel and make sure that anything that you think that if they would fall on, it might slice them open. Like, for instance, the end of the light tubes, or, the glass will break sometimes and it'll be like a U-shaped, and, you'll have the two sharp edges and you got to either kick those out or smash them, or, just any of that stuff.
Anything you think they might get hurt on, they will.
They will. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, cause they're going to hurt themselves up enough anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as, cutting themselves, like, dude, it popped me so hard when Nick Gage gave Chris Jericho the pizza cutter in the first like 2 minutes of the match.
Right.
Yeah. Welcome to deathmatch wrestling, buddy.
Right. Okay, so let's transition on a little bit. You had mentioned Black Label, you had mentioned ICW No Holds. I want to make sure that we give them a fair amount of time. Obviously, IWA really helped you like find your own as a professional wrestling referee. Let's talk about where you go from there. We're actually kind of leading into the time frame where you and I ran into each other over in Indiana once upon a time. So let's go ahead and tell these stories. How did we get from there to here?
So, like I was saying, Mouse threw me in his car,
right,
and ended
shout
up
out to Mouse. Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to Mouse. He's a great dude. If you check him out, I can't remember I'm pretty sure his handles and all that stuff is just Mouse's Wrestling Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes amazing pictures. Actually, that picture, since we were talking about it a second ago, the picture of Matt Cardona being showered and trashed, where he's looking down at the W title, that was actually taken by Mouse. So Mouse is there for everything. And he was going to Black Label. This is, I think, their third show ever. Mm-hmm. And threw me in the car. Mikey gave me an opportunity, and so got on with them. And and then that led to Black Label led to I'm trying to think of what else after that. Anyway, regardless, me and you had met. It was so that show was so much fun. And it wasn't even that packed of a show, which is surprising.
It was empty, bro. It was a great show. It was fire. Luckily, it was like being streamed. But like, I walked into the building and was so stoked about the room, and then like I felt so bad for the boys when I looked at the like people out there. I was just like, where is everybody? This is a dope show. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you tell the story.
Well, and I think what was somewhat detrimental to that was Heroes and Legends, which
Mm,
runs in the same town, was running on the same day, and I think it's
gotcha.
split fans. You know what I mean? But like you said, dude, the Black Label show that we were on was stupid stacked. Like Marco Stunt was on it. The Godfather, Nick Gage was there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like, stupid stacked.
I
Um,
think that was when I had a conversation with Gage where like he recognized me from California and was just like, Odie, what are you doing here? This is Indiana. And I was like, what, bro? Just trying to get,
yeah, dude,
make some towns or whatever. And he's like, bro, okay.
it's funny how Gage will notice little shit like that, man, because he's done that to me before at a couple different towns, and it's just like, oh, you remember me? That's dude, you're
Right?
Nick Gage. So cool. So,
I mean, for me to like walk into a place with like my glasses on and street clothes and for anybody to recognize me is like a pretty cool experience for me because like I'm Clark Kent status when it comes to like being out of my stuff. Like people that I just refed have literally forgotten me, like 10 minutes later when I get changed.
oh, dude, trust me, I know because of this little thing right here,
Right.
dude. If I have my hair down, like, or have it in a ponytail, it's like, and especially with my glasses on, they'd have no clue who I am, and it's like I'll put the gear on and spruce the hair up and stuff, and it's just like, oh, hey, Sean, when'd you get here?
Right. I've
All
been here
time.
all day, bro. Actually, shout out to somebody else with a really great memory. I refed AJ Gray in LA like maybe 2 years ago or something like that. And I knew that I had met him, but I didn't expect him to like remember me. So when I introduced myself, I was like, what's up, man? I'm Odie. And he's just like, yeah, I know you ref me in Indiana. I was like, bro, bet. Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, so you're in Black Label now. You're ripping and
Yeah.
rolling with Mouse. Go ahead.
So, and then also too, that was what I was trying to think of. The next notable place that I got to after that, thankful to Mouse, was Glory Pro
Mhm.
in St. Louis, and then getting chances with and then Paradigm was starting up around that time period, and Paradigm was doing some really cool things too, and so like things are just like I said, they were just starting to roll really fast, and then any car that I got an opportunity to hop in, I would. Like a Resistance Pro was another one that I had hopped in the car and just, because Shane Mercer was booked, and I was like, "Hey, where are you at this weekend?" He said, "I'm in Chicago," and ended up that was a show where he picked up the bleachers and tossed them around, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Here we are," like So, but like I said, like 2008, 2017, 2018, there was so much stuff rolling that
Mhm.
it was like, "Hey, where are you going to be at?" And let me get there. So, um, but yeah, like um, I would say, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I lost my train of
That's
thought.
okay. Obviously, you've paved quite a path for yourself. You've, scratched off a lot of names as far as companies, people that you've worked with, things like that on your list. And just the past like 20 minutes of places that you've been talking about have kind of been a who's who of like places that any referee in the world would want to work for, obviously. What kind of goals do you have left for yourself? What do you want to get out of wrestling? What would make you feel like you were satisfied with your career? Talk about that.
um, well, it used to be hardcore, and it still is to a certain extent. I really want to make this my full-time job. You know what I'm saying? I don't want. I hate working a 9 to 5. I've never wanted to work a 9 to 5, obviously, because it was either music or this, and those are very,
Not 9 to 5.
not. And um, so yeah, that's like the ultimate goal, I guess, is I would love to make this a full-time job. But right now, while I'm doing what I'm doing, um, like my biggest goal is just to to be beneficial to any show that I'm on, and then also, like we had mentioned earlier, like I live by that: leave the business better than you found it. And I had really gotten an opportunity to, I guess, take that chance on not just myself but on the business by getting an opportunity to work at Too Tough Tony's school,
Mhm.
Grindhouse Wrestling Academy. And I've been there now for about 3 years, I'd say. And he runs student shows, and I come in and I'll help. And then also whenever they do seminars, or every now and then I'll pop in a class and help, ref matches. Cause like I was saying earlier, that's how I get my reps in now.
Yeah.
I'll go to like seminars and stuff. And, a lot of times the seminars will end up doing those, matches, like 5-10 minute matches or whatever. And I'll just be like, hey, whoever, I'm here, let me ref, whatever. Sure. And I'll work on things that I need to work on in the ring. While like, for instance, there was, which, hey, it happens. I pulled my count one time. So it was like, hey, let me work on not knowing.
The best of us. Go ahead.
I was like, hey, let me work on not knowing the finish. So I would work every match. And I still kind of do this just to, get the reps in. I won't know the finish of what they're doing just so that I can get that practice and I won't screw up. You know what I'm saying? Still like to know the finish, but
it's when you count 3, brother. We would be, actually I wanted to say before we transition off to that, I can't recommend that highly enough. Attending seminars as a referee, like a lot of people don't really take up those opportunities because they see that it's for wrestlers only. And like, I couldn't like disagree with that more. Like I've been to a bunch of seminars, and honestly, like the majority of the time I'm the only referee that's there. And then I get, like you said, a crazy amount of reps that like you would have never expected to be able to get. Like I did a Lucha Underground tryout once with Vampiro, and there were like 30 dudes that were there, and they each paired off, and he had each one of them do a 5-minute match twice. And I was the only ref. So I just was doing that all day, over and over and over. And Vampiro was in the ring with us, tweaking things as we were going. And obviously we're the only ones that are staying in the ring. So as we're waiting for people to come in out, he's giving me feedback too. So like, it was amazing, like such a worthwhile experience.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like I've, well, and going back to Mouse, we've shouted him out a few times, but man, well, even going back even further to whenever Mouse was doing the Tuesdays at the arena thing, and like I have a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter, and
shout
Tuesday,
out to baby girl.
Yeah, shout out to JJ. But Tuesday just so happens to be the day that I don't have her. She's with her mom, and so I would hop up there, just hop on my bike and ride it up to the arena just to go hang out and see, what's going on. And there were a few weeks where it was just Mouse and a couple other wrestlers and Billy, and, and they were just doing their thing. But like, there was also times where like, he would bring in like Zachary Wentz, which is known, what's his name now?
Nash Carter.
Yeah.
I think
Nash Carter. He brought him. I think twice he brought him in for a seminar. And then ACH was another one. Like Mike Bennett was the most recent that he brought in, and like just all these different like names of people who are like incredible talent and like
definitely worthwhile.
What was cool about the ACH one was I had just came off of refereeing. I think it was him and Leo Rush at Break. I had just refereed that match. And then it was a week later, we had worked on the Indianapolis GCW show together. And then it was like a week after that, he did Mouse's seminar at the arena. And it was like, I saw ACH, and by the time
seen him, and all of a sudden,
right. Yeah. By the time we had done that seminar, he was like, calling me by a first name basis. And I'm just like, and I'm calling him Albert. And I'm just like, do we just become friends? Like,
do we just become best friends?
So, it's crazy stuff like that. So
very cool. That was a nice organic transition into what I actually wanted to talk about previously. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what your biggest, newest ventures are right now. Obviously, you've got a lot going on with ICW No Holds Barred, and you just, not just recently, but like you've been really like sinking your teeth in with Game Changer Wrestling. Let's talk a little bit about those ventures that you've been diving into.
For sure, man. Those are some opportunities that I never in a million years thought that I would, be fortunate to be a part of.
Which is ridiculous, first and foremost, because like I didn't even realize that you didn't already work for them when you started working for them. I just assumed you were a Game Changer Wrestling guy. But go ahead, continue.
So the first Game Changer show that I had done was actually the Nashville show.
Okay.
That Shane Mercer was on. Shane Mercer threw one of the stunts off the stage, and then there was also on that one Mance Warner and Effie, and they did some crazy WCW theme match. It was kind of funny, but anyway, that was my first official Game Changer show. Although that was one of those I just showed up with Shane and was throwing a match, and so I don't really call it my first official. My first official was that Indianapolis World on GCW.
Okay.
And that was literally just, I showed up. Chris had recognized me from the group, Chris Levin.
Yeah.
And then more or less ended up giving me a shot. And then also was able to do the collective in October, the Makeup Collective in October. And then I also did some stuff on the collective here recently in Tampa. And so, and that's really been all the GCW stuff that I've gotten to do. But like every time, man, I have a blast. And actually, because of me doing the GCW stuff, is pretty much what led to me doing the ICW stuff. Because, Chris Levin, who is the man and runs himself too thin. But
absolutely.
Chris Levin. Chris, we were at that World on GCW show in Indianapolis, and he had asked me if he was like, "Hey, are you available for this weekend coming up?" It's like the next following weekend. And I'm very fortunate to have a shoot job who is, flexible and who works with my schedule, who knows that, I view the professional wrestling business as like another job, you know what I mean? And so they were very cool with it. They were like, "Hey, yeah, cool." Because I literally needed 3 days off notice, 3 or 4 off notice to do ICW the next weekend. And then that was ICW No Holds Barred 6, which is the show that John Wayne Murdoch did the Destroyer off the thing through the contraption with glass.
Off the thing through the thing, and everybody died, and there was blood, and it was what?
It was nuts. Yeah, it was John Wayne Murdoch and Orin Veidt was the main of that one, and they went ham. But like I said, me being a GCW and me being available the following weekend led to me being at ICW, and love ICW. I love the environment there. I love the locker room. Danny DeMonto, Ryan, the struggles as far as the commentator, and Ron Niemi are two of the best. Like everything about ICW is just love being there, love showing up there, love being a part of it. And so once I got that opportunity, it was like anytime that I saw that they had dates coming up, I was literally at first in Chris's inbox, and I felt like I was annoying Chris. So ended up, I started just hitting up Danny directly, and I was like, "Yo, man, like, if you need me, I'm there." And he was like, "You're my guy." And so it's really cool because now if Chris isn't there, then I'm there. Or if Chris can't be there, then I'm there by myself. But if Chris can be there, it's me and him together. And
which is a great learning tree to sit under.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's literally what I was about to say. Me and him working together, I've been able to learn so much, and just really getting to know Chris has been awesome.
Absolutely. What's next for you? What do you got coming up in the works? We're kind of winding down time. We're in the last 5 minutes. I do like to give everybody an opportunity, if you want to obviously get over your socials and everything, but if you've got shows coming up that you want to plug, if there are, maybe wrestlers that you think people don't really know about yet and they should, or other refs or anything like that, let's just take some time and talk about any of the things you think people should know about leaving this.
Sure. Well, I think the coming up as far as shows go, I've got ICW in Texas coming up this coming weekend.
Very cool.
That's going to be incredible. And then we've got some New Wave Pro stuff coming up at the end of this month. Glory Pro is running on the 22nd of August, and Eddie Kingston is making his return.
Sick.
Love to see Eddie back on the Indies, man.
Right? I saw him at I think it was AAW, and I was just like, yes.
I love that he's on the Indies and he's not released or fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and as far as like, stuff to put over, man, I would say the biggest thing that I definitely want to put over is IWTV. That's one of my in professional wrestling right now, like period. Just because like it's such a resourceful tool. It's so easy for people to get. It's really not expensive at all. Like if you WWE Network or a Peacock subscription, you could afford IWTV. And then not only that, but like I said, it gets so many different people in front of so many different eyes. Like I'm in the process right now of learning and going back and watching Deathmatch Down Under, which is
Australia, right? Yeah. One of my ref mentors, Guido, is actually like one of their wrestlers now. He started doing deathmatch wrestling and moved to Australia of all places.
Dude, well, I actually just listened to an interview that dropped with Guido. So I heard all about that story. It's pretty cool. And actually the podcast is an Australian podcast that's over there that he had done. So
very cool.
But yeah, man. So like going back and being able to watch that and stuff. Plus there's so much, back catalog for all kinds of different companies. Like you can go back and watch old IWA Mid South on there. Right. There's some old there's even old, like the foundation of Game Changer Wrestling that's on there. You can go watch, So that's probably one of my favorite things in wrestling right now. Plus, I'm all over that mug. So
plus, you might see me a little bit.
Well, like if free game for anybody tuning in, any of the boys, any of the referees. That was kind of like my trajectory, like my path. Whenever I first started, was Powerbomb TV was first kind of starting to be a thing, and which that was the original inception of IWTV was Powerbomb TV, and that was just starting to become a thing, and so it was kind of like that was where I needed to be. Any company that was going to be on Powerbomb ended up IWTV. That was where I needed to be, and so that was a big driving force in me trying to get on a Black Label Pro. Besides it, the opportunity being there, but one of the big major things that made me want to be there was the fact that it streamed on IWTV. Same thing with like a Glory Pro. At the time, they were doing some stuff on IWTV.
I really can't stress how important it is to like do something like this in your career. Like there's so many people that like they don't know what direction they want to go in, so they just try to go in all of the directions and nothing really like hits, and they're just kind of like not sure what to do. Like you said, you found the Powerbomb TV, you had a list of places that were like covered on Powerbomb TV, and you're like, all right, cool, let's just start crossing names off of a list. Like the minute that you start actually having some focus and some like direction, your doors will start opening.
Exactly. Yeah, man. It's like you got to make a roadmap, you know what I'm saying, of where you want to go to get to where you're going. You know what I mean? And Powerbomb made it really easy because I could literally just go to the categories and promotions or whatever that, and there's my list right there of all these companies that I need to try and, find a way to be a part of. And so, yeah, man, it's definitely helped me a lot. Not just, not just be aware of what's going on, because, I watch more independent stuff than I do mainstream by far, like I was earlier, but also too, but for me to be seen, so IWTV is definitely the move right now. To put over some companies, definitely check out Paradigm Pro Wrestling. That is, my home. The people that started that company, are boys of mine from before I was doing wrestling. You know what I mean? It just so happens that they were IWA Mid South fans, and we were all in the same place at the same time. And it was like, and then they started a wrestling company, and it was like, I gotta be a part. So absolutely. So Paradigm Pro Wrestling is doing some really cool things. Actually, I think that they're coming out your way here soon. They're doing a joint show with with the company that Kita's home fit.
Very cool.
Was that?
I have to keep my eyes out for that.
That
WAC Without a Cause.
Yeah, they're doing a joint show with them coming up here soon. So, but yeah, Paradigm Pro Wrestling is something really cool that's going on. As far as wrestlers go, all right, well, let me put over some refs. Definitely check out my guy Aaron Grider Groove on social media, and then also Max Recon, AJ Kissinger. Got to put over both those guys. That is like my crew.
Couldn't sing their praises enough. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Aaron hasn't been in the business very long, but he was very fortunate to link up with someone like me and Max Recon, and the three of us love both those guys. We help each other out. They help me out a lot. Love both those guys. Definitely check out both those dudes. And I got to give a shout out to my guy Daniel Spencer. Killing it on Impact and all that good stuff. Me and him. He's another one of my day ones, somebody that I got my start with, and then to see him flourish where he's gotten to and doing the things that he's doing is incredible, man.
I was actually wondering about that when we first started the conversation, because I've seen you around so much that I didn't actually know where you live or where you're from, which is pretty funny. But to hear you talk about being from that area, I was like, wait, who have I heard this story from? Daniel Spencer's from there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, and Daniel had kind of got his start at the Grindhouse Pro Wrestling Academy. And then, by getting his reps in, he flourished really fast and he got it and was able to get opportunities with OVW and stuff. And because of him, I've actually gotten to work with OVW and got to cross that off the bucket list. Because my thing with working for OVW was didn't really want, so I'm not a big fan of pay to play. Sure. When I was music, I was not, there was promoters that was trying to get me to pay $500 to open for whatever, a Young Jeezy or, whoever. Yeah. And not a big fan of that. Yeah. So when it came to getting a license, I had already had so much opportunities that was, sprouting out, so quick and stuff that it was just I don't really need a license. So I'm good. But it was still always a dream to work for OVW, obviously, because, growing up in this area, everyone knows OVW. And so because of Daniel, I had got that opportunity during the quarantine. They ran in the wild, wild west over here in Indiana. Mm-hmm. And so to clarify, I technically live in Indiana. I live in Jeffersonville, Indiana, which is at the very bottom of Indiana. Gotcha. And my house is about 2 minutes from the Louisville Bridge. Right. So I grew up in Louisville, but I technically live in Indiana. Mm. So
you're in just a primo spot being so close to everything.
Exactly, man. It's been very, very fortunate.
Very cool. Any wrestlers? And then let's make sure that we get your socials over too before we wind things down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As far as wrestlers go, man, two of my favorite guys in the business, actually, and they're both in my top five, my personal top five, but two guys that I feel like people know of, but don't know enough about.
Sure.
One of them for sure that I have to mention is an Aaron Williams.
Okay.
Aaron Williams is one of the most talented dudes in in America, really, and in the world. And he should be a millionaire, and it's sad that he's not. So I would definitely have to say Aaron Williams. He's a 2-time back-to-back, TPI winner. Mm-hmm. He's had matches with all of your favorite wrestlers throughout the years. You know what I mean? And so hopefully here soon he will get his shine and get his due. He recently had an opportunity with ICW No Holds Barred. And it's crazy because halfway through that match, he smacked his face on the concrete and doesn't remember the last half of it. It was still amazing.
Yeah.
It was great. And so anybody that can do that definitely has all my praises. So Aaron Williams, best. And I definitely got to put over Jake Christ. Jake Christ is one of the best in the world. And he has had the worst amount of luck in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. So that's somebody I definitely will always put over. Actually, I'm wearing a shirt, right now at the moment. So it's one of my dudes.
I mean, if we're shouting out shirts, Rob Horn, the Ghoul is here, New Orleans. What's up? But anyway, you're saying.
But yeah, Jake is one of the best in the world, and he just gets it. And I feel like that guy should be everywhere. So definitely give that guy an opportunity.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for that. Let's get your socials in, and then we'll go ahead and wind things down.
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's all the same, at official SPO 502. And then I'm on Facebook too if you want to follow me, but I'm maxed out on friends. So, but definitely follow me on
Instagram. Out on friends, no big deal, bro. You know, I got like 5,000 friends on Facebook.
You know, I guess it's a humble brag, but no, not even really, because like
okay,
most of
so
them
like
are,
I'm gonna take your humble brag and I'm gonna cut you down a little bit because your handle is so hard for me to remember. And every time, how many times have I texted you randomly in the middle of the night and been like, "What's your Twitter?" Like every time I'm like, "Sean, no. O'Brien, no, man." But what is this dude's name?
right. Well, and what's funny is that I've actually started to get referred to as either SPO or SPO. Okay. So I'm like, people just see my handle so much that they are just like, oh, okay, yeah, SPO, and that helps them. Maybe that's an easy way for you to start remembering it.
There you go, SPO. You could be like the ref RSP, SPO.
Yeah, sure.
Cool, man. Well,
hey, we both.
Right, yeah, both got the man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was awesome to finally get down and have a chance to chop up with you. Obviously, you were definitely on the list from the very get-go, but you know, it's nice to have you on here and let people hear a little bit about who you are and where you're from and your life experiences. So yeah, seriously, thank you so much for being here,
dude. Hey, I appreciate you bringing me on. I appreciate everything that you have done for this business and for referees in general, because as I was saying at the beginning, man, Zebra Talk is probably the best tool for people who do what we do, hands down. And then also too, we got some pretty cool ass gear too. So
well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, everything that you do, man, you are the man, and I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us. If you would like to support the Zebra Talk Fund, Zebra Talk itself, the Zebra Talk podcast, all of us, we have the prowrestlingtees.com/Zebra Talk. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats, we've got sweaters, buttons, tracksuits, all kinds of stuff. We might have fanny packs coming soon. What? I didn't say that. Did I say that? Maybe I said that. If you yourself would like to be on the show and you're a referee, please email me at zebratalk123@gmail.com. That is also where you can apply for the Zebra Talk Fund. For those of you who don't know what that is, once a month, we take a referee who is traveling outside of their home area that applies for the fund, and we help them out a little bit with their expenses. All of the profits from Zebra Talk merch goes straight into the fund. So please shop, buy some gear, rep the refs, you know, help out your friends. If you want to find Zebra Talk on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at ZebraTalk123. And then you can find me on Instagram, Twitter at Odie1Canody. If you are a referee and you're not in the Zebra Talk group yet, find me at Robert Odie Brown on Facebook, or any of the other refs that you know. They're probably in it already, and we'll get you in the group. And on that note, thank you again very much for being here. And thank you very much, folks, for listening, watching, however it is that you're taking this in. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And yeah, see you next time.